N5WY.
This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9. Ham Fixin's Net, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
Hello, Juliet 5 Bravo Kilo Alpha. Sorry, I accidentally hit the push to talk button.
MCOM Net, second Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. tonight? This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Libra. My name is Brenda. I'll be your net control for this station of the DARC. Skynet is a weekly net call every Saturday night, 9 p.m. to discuss the subjects of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and day sky astronomy and space in general.
Brenda, your signal is very weak tonight. KE5ITX.
Skynet, you want to read it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do it this evening for you. Okay, this is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. Brenda is moving this weekend, so her antenna is not in its usual place. That's why her signal is a little weak, and she asked me to take over in case it didn't sound all that good, and I don't think it sounds all that good, so maybe next week. So we'll go ahead and get started. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. And our purposes are to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions to this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible by using the Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio links, video links, are available online. Just go to the club website, which is Whiskey 5 Fried Chicken, w5sc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome, and you need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is approximately 90 minutes long, more or less, and is broken up into the following parts. The general announcement, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society, discussion topic of the evening, What's Up, Space Exploration and Space History, Constellation of the Week, space launches for the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and the 73 round. Depending on how long the net goes, will determine just how many of these sections we get through. So we're going to go ahead and get started with low power and short time check-ins. If you are one of those, I'd like you to please check in now with your call sign, phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low power, short time.
November 5 Sierra, Quebec Alpha, Ron, Dallas, short time.
Kilo India 5, uniform, Alpha uniform, David in the seat, on an HT.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Tango Zulu, Philip, low power, White Rock Creek.
Kilo 5, Mike, Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas, low power.
November 5, Whiskey Yankee, Joe in Dallas, low power and short time.
Okay, we got 5 out of that. N5SQA, Ron in Dallas, short time. KI5UAU, David Mesquite. I think he said low power. I had a little trouble hearing you, but I've got you down low power, short time. KI5KTZ, that's Philip in White Rock, low power. K5MCD, Cody, Dallas, low power. N5WY, Joe, Dallas, low power and short time. Anyone else low power, short time, please come out. All right, does anyone here of the 5 checked in so far? We move on to general check-ins, and you fade away into the night. Please come with your call. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and get started with general check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. General check-ins.
Kilo, Golf, 5, uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo. Jacob, Farmers Branch.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James, Carrollton.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
Oh, it's so slow. Usually I can't keep up. Tonight they're just trickling in. Let me get the three I got. KG5 UFR, Jacob and Farmers Branch, KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton, K5JHA Chaz and Mesquite. Additional check-ins, please come out.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington.
Okay, I managed to tease two more out. I've got N5BB, Bill and Irving, and KI5KWG, Cruise in Arlington. I'll go ahead and move over to Echolink, give those folks a chance to check in. If you're on Echolink, you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and I will give you extra time. Echolink only, please.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Pennsylvania, to All-Star.
Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu. Yeah, what?
This is Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Point.
All right, I think we got everybody else already. Well, not everybody, but let me go ahead and give you who we've got. I got KG5BZW, near Weatherford. Got you checked in. Bill, KF5ZBL. He's over on one of the, I can't remember what it is, the other All-Star link, I believe, is what he's coming in on. And I've got K5KTX, Kelly, over in Point. I'll take check-ins from any mode, anywhere. Please come with your call, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Okie dokie, well, it's a little slow tonight, but I'm sure it'll pick up a little later. Let's then get started. I will have additional check-ins later on. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? They could be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hands. Please come with your call now. Okay, well, I do see some notes here from Tony. He's not checked in this evening. Maybe perhaps it was a memory jog for him or maybe for one of us to read, but I'll go ahead and give you what he has. Tonight's movie is, Afterglow movie is, of course, Star Trek Beyond 2016. Unfortunately, our original movie, just Star Trek from 2007, I believe it was, 2007, 2009, was pulled off the list, but Star Trek Beyond was also still there over on Pluto TV, so we're going to watch that instead from 2016. That'll be at 10:30 p.m. this evening, and everybody is welcome to check in on that net as well. We have MCOM 101 net coming this Monday at 7 p.m. That should be Kevin, N5KRG. He's the guy. If you're interested in emergency communications, this is an opportunity for you to ask the experts, find out which group might suit you best. If you're interested in emergency communications and helping out served agencies, that's at 7 p.m. this Monday. Then don't forget, DARC Field Day will be back at Johnson Outpost YMCA. That includes air conditioning and bathrooms. Yes, it's that good. Many opportunities to help are still available, including sign up for setup, takedown, and the Saturday evening potluck. Please sign up at w5fc.org or whiskey5friedchicken.org. Remember, we'll have a full 24-hour station, so you can always visit us after you visit a Saturday-only site. Overnight and Sunday morning guests are especially welcome. You will have a grand opportunity to talk on the radio. If you've never done this before, we will pair you up with another individual who is familiar with it, and you can trade off. One can talk, the other one can write the contact information or input it into the computer. It's a lot of fun. It's a great opportunity. If you've not done HF before, or if you have, either way, it will be a great opportunity. We'll be doing digital modes. We'll be doing CW if you want to do that. Bring your key. If you want to do voice, we'll be there and we'll show you how to do it. Does anyone need any fills on any of that information? Please come with your call. All right, hearing none, I'll go ahead and go on to the next part here, which is our usual nets. Do not forget that we do have the AMSAT group. There are actually 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings, there's 2 nets at 8 p.m. The first one is based in Houston, that you can access via Echolink. Just look for the AMSAT link under groups. You can also go to amsatnet.com where there's a live audio link and listen in to all things going on with amateur satellite. The Dallas AMSAT Net East group meets in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas here every Tuesday on this repeater with a PL10 and 110.9 on Tuesday. Tom, N5HYT is net control, and all are welcome to check in. Let's see. So this week, this coming week, there will be a net. Also, if you missed the Tuesday net, Tom does a second one on Wednesday night called Dallas AMSAT Net West. That's at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, which is 147.140 megahertz with a tail tone of 110.9. It has a positive offset. Next up are all the DARC-hosted nets. This is a very active repeater, so they are all on this frequency. The first week, Monday, is Ham Fixin's net. As we all know, not only do hams like to eat, but a lot of them like to cook. So from 7 to approximately 8 o'clock, bring your recipes, some cooking tips and other sundry items, and maybe even a restaurant or two that you think is pretty cool. By all means, show up for that. That is at 7 p.m. on the first Monday of the month. Second Monday is MCOM 101. That's the one coming up, which we just talked about. Third week is the second helping of Ham Fixins at 7 p.m. Fourth, we host and we expand beyond just amateur radio. We'll include computers, anything else that you would like to do. It is a lot of fun. And then if there is a fifth Monday, is a surprise net. We told you what it is. It wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. We mentioned the Tuesday AMSAT Net East. Friday is CERT City Simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KF5GRH, is usually the net control, and it's an opportunity for you to visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday night, CERT City. All are welcome. On Saturdays is, of course, the night of nets. We have TechNet from 7 to 8, and then Skynet from 9 until 10:30, and then the afterglow moving net. Daily at 6:30 is the National Training System, the National Traffic System Training Net. I'll get the keywords correct. This is an opportunity for you to discuss, be able to participate in a formalized net involving message handling. It means messages sent from one station to another accurately. So all these nets are available. We hope you will come by. I had originally written up a ditty for tonight's Afterglow net, an Afterglow movie net. Unfortunately, it was preempted because they took the streaming video down for Star Trek, so I didn't write one up for the new one. Even though I had started to, I never finished it. Bad time. Okay, let me go ahead and ask if there's any additional check-ins at this point, or if anyone needs any fills, please come with your call now.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WV4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf in Arlington.
All right, well, this was most interesting. If you were watching the video component of this thing, you would see a full-grown dog trying to get in my chair and would not get out. I had to stand up to take those check-ins. Most bizarre. Okay, let me get those check-ins. I've got Whiskey Bravo 4, MF5. That would be Ted over in Dallas. I think you said low power. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson, I got you. KG5ZMG over in Arlington. Can I get your name? Oh, wait a minute. I see it here. Joe over on Echolink. I've got you checked in, Joe. Let's see. I also have KG5APL. That's Patrick over in Dallas. He's on Echolink. So I've got you checked in. Don't see anyone over on any of the others. Anyone else want to check in? Please come with your call now. And now I know why the dog wants my chair. The other dog is driving the dog chair. The chair dog is crazy. So I'm going to have an interesting little event here very close to my radio station. Wonderful. Okay, let's go to the next section, which would be Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. We're waiting to look through a telescope. It says here Chaz will do that. So KF5JHA. Chaz, what do you got for us this evening from KE5ITX?
Maybe I can give you a break so that you can separate the dogs and put them in different corners in a timeout. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, June the 23rd at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is going to be Marcos Esparza, and his topic is on space telescope optics. That should be interesting. Now, Saturday night public observing stations have begun, but you know what? We just haven't had any recently because of the weather. The second Saturday of the month would be Frisco is where it would be held, but that didn't happen or is not happening because of the weather, so oh well. But if there's anyone out there that's doing some stargazing, would you like to make a report? Come now with your call sign if you're a ham radio operator at an observing station. Well, it's been interesting watching the bright planet Venus in the evening sky. We'll cover that a little bit later in Skynet. You can check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about the meetings and public observing stations. This is KF5JJ, back to our net control. Tom, I hope you've got your dogs under control. Good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you, Chaz. Usually the one dog likes to climb into the chair when there's thunderstorms, lots of lightning and thunder, and he will do that. But tonight it's the other dog giving him grief. So, unfortunately, for some reason, when I'm in this chair, he gets in this chair with me. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and check in Philippe, KI5KTZ. Listed there, and he says he loves the dogs. He's watching the feed. Okay, you say so. Next is Bill, N5BB. Bill, what do you have for us for National Space Society of North Texas from KE5IK?
Thank you very much, Tom. This is N5BB. I happen to be the membership director and the member at large for the North Texas section of the National Space Society. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, you can contact me at N5BB at ARRL.net. That's November 5 Bravo Bravo at ARRL.net. National Space Society local chapter in North Texas has a monthly meeting, the second Sunday of every month. Why, that's tomorrow. We meet in Irving at Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline. This is a little over a mile east of the south entrance of DFW Airport. And tomorrow, we're going to have cake. That's right. If you come visit our meeting in person, you can have cake, and you can eat it too. Why are we having cake? Because at the International Space Development Conference in Frisco 2 weeks ago, our local chapter won the Chapter of Excellence Award for all the NSS chapters in the world. So we're going to have cake to celebrate that. So our meeting will start at 3:30 p.m. tomorrow at the Spring Creek Barbecue with cake. And then at 4 o'clock, we're going to have two presentations. I am going to give a presentation about what happened at the International Space Development Conference in Frisco 2 weeks ago. Just an overview, high points for what went on there. And then we're going to have a presentation by somebody that's at SMU here in Dallas about the NASA Viper project. Number to the moon, Earth's moon, South Pole area at November of 2024, November of next year. And that rover will look around for volatiles like water or other kinds of things. So that's going to be a very interesting project. And you can hear about it by coming to the NSS North Texas meeting in Irving tomorrow. You can also watch that meeting on WebEx virtually from your house if you don't want any cake. And you don't want to get the benefit of seeing all us fine people in person. And already one person has Ham that heard my spiel on TechNet has already gotten the registration information from me. If you would like to register, you can send me an email, and I will tell you how you can. I'll send you a registration link back that you can register for the meeting tomorrow. How do you do that? Well, you use my previous email I gave you, n5bb@arrl.net, or you can send an email to space@byrom.net, space@byrom.net. On some other space-related things, I thought squeeze these in. The NASA is now doing a special team focused on unidentified anomalous phenomena, independent study. This is looking at what used to be called UFOs. Now they're called unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAPs. And this committee first got together last year. It's, I think, 16 different preeminent scientists and people. And there's an article in Scientific American magazine yesterday, and the comment is, bad data, not aliens, may be behind the UFO surge, NASA team says. So they think that the big problem with all these reports is that there's bad data. They're not collected very well, and we need more data. Give us more data. So they are thinking about things like coming up with smartphone apps that would allow you to photograph interesting things you see in the sky and then send this information to the group directly. So they can get more data, because if they can get data from multiple people simultaneously, they can figure out if it's ball lightning or a sprite in the thunderstorm, or it's an airplane, or it's a re-entering missile, or it's Venus, which is really bright sometimes. So that's interesting, and that's all that I've got. This is N5BB. Thank you, Tom.
All right, thank you, Bill. Thanks for that information and the additional news story. Very, very interesting. Okay, let's see here. Do we have any additional check-ins before we begin with the topic of the evening? Okay, well, normally Brenda would be net control this evening, but she's having some radio issues because she is in the process of moving, so her antenna is not in an optimal spot. So I'm going to go ahead and read her topic. Let me go ahead and pull up for the video portion of this thing what she was going to talk about. But tonight's topic is why and how NASA gives a name to every spot it studies on Mars. So I'm going to put up a picture of Belva crater, which you can look at. It's pretty spectacular. That's where the Curiosity rover landed a few years ago. And this is what she has here. This NASA's Perseverance rover is currently investigating rock outcrops along the rim of Mars' Belva crater, some 2,300 miles away. NASA's Curiosity rover drilled some sample in a location called Ubajura. The crater bears the official name. The drill location is identified by the nickname, hence the quotation mark. Okay, I gave you the wrong rover in the wrong location, but that's okay. Both names are among thousands applied by NASA's missions, not just to craters and hills, but to every boulder, pebble, and rock surface they study. One reason we pick all these names is to help the team keep track of what they're finding each day. Ashwin Vasavada, the Curiosity Missions Project scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California, says. Later on, we can refer to the many hills and rocks by name as we discuss them and eventually document our discoveries. That's just how scientists come up with the identifiers that have evolved since the early days. 25 years ago when they used cartoon character names. Here's a closer look. Some of the official names. The difference between an official name on Mars and an unofficial one is seemingly simple. The official monikers that have been approved by the body of the scientists known as the International Astronomical Union, or IAU, sets the standards for naming planetary features and logs the names in the Gazetteer of Planetary Nomenclature. For example, craters larger than 37 miles are named for famous scientists or science fiction authors. Smaller craters are named after towns with populations of less than 100,000 people. Jezero crater, which Perseverance has been exploring, shares the name from the Bosnian town of Belva, an impact crater within Jezero. It's named after the West Virginia town that is, in turn, named after Belva Lockwood, the suffrage who ran for president in 1884 and 1888. More than 2,000 locations on Mars bear official names, but even more unofficial nicknames dot the Martian map. Evolving nicknames. Early Mars missions sometimes took a whimsical route, and with nicknames even using cartoon character names like Yogi Rock, Casper, and Scooby-Doo were among the unofficial names applied by the team behind NASA's first rover Sojourner in 1990. The philosophy changed with the Spirit and Opportunity rovers, whose teams started using more intentional names. For instance, the Opportunity team nicknamed a crater Endurance in honor of the ship that carried explorer Ernest Shackleton's ill-fated expedition to Antarctica. The names for the spots where Curiosity and Perseverance landed honor science fiction writers Ray Bradbury and Octavia E. Butler, respectively. The InSight team named a rock that had been jostled by the lander's retro rockets during touchdown, Rolling Stone Rock, after the band. And the Curiosity team named a Martian hill after their colleague, Rafael Navarro Gonzalez, who died from COVID-19 complications. Despite occasional exceptions, Curiosity and Perseverance missions stick to nicknames based on terrestrial locations. Before Curiosity landed in 2012, the team created a geological map of the landing area. They started by drawing a grid, marking squares or quadrants equivalent to about 0.7 miles on each side. These quadrants would be themed around a site of geological significance on Earth. Then, as now, team members suggested ideas for themes based on sites where they had worked or what they have a personal connection to. And they informally discussed which would be the most interesting to include, keeping in mind that various names would be memorialized in future scientific papers. Once the theme is picked, hundreds of names fitted into the theme are compiled. That many are needed because the available names can dwindle quickly, giving the Curiosity may sit in a quadrant for several months. For Curiosity's latest quadrant, the rover's team chose a theme named after Roraima, the northernmost state of Brazil, and for Mount Roraima, the highest peak in the Pacaraima Mountains, located near the border of Mexico and Guyana. This marks the first South American quadrant theme. The sulfate-enriched region Curiosity is currently exploring, with its flat-topped hills and steep slopes, reminded them of the tabletop. The rover is now exploring the Rocky Mountain Quadrant and recently drilled into rocks at the location bearing the name of Rocky Mountain National Park, Powell Peak. Oh, and I'm giving you the, I forgot to put this up, but if you're still looking at the video link, you'll see the different grid squares and how they're named. This information also, if you go to the w5fc.org website, just look under the main topic this evening, and you'll find a couple of pictures, one of which has the grid squares, so you'll find that quite interesting, as well as the Belva crater close-up view. Okay, well, we're going to stop there. That was Brenda's presentation for this evening. She would have been net control, WB5OZL, but I am for now. So let's go ahead and let me see if there's any additional check-ins or any questions. I don't know if I can answer any, but I might be able to direct them to somebody who can answer them. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Or if you have a question, just put out your call.
WD5
ICD, Dallas.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth, just checking in.
Okay, well, I got two, maybe three. I think I already got Philippe checked in, KI5KTZ. If I didn't, my apologies. I'm doing that now. The next one I had was WD5ICV over in Dallas. Could I get your name, please?
Yes, it's Whiskey Delta 5, India Charlie Victor. Name is Joe, Dallas.
Okay, correction on the call. WD5 India Charlie Victor, that's Joe over in Dallas. I have you checked in. Next up, one of our old timers is KB9SOK, Sean over in Fort Worth. Anyone else? All right, well, next up is Was Up. So that would be Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, welcome back. You are up from KE5I6.
Thank you. Hello again. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet Was Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks. Slide Master, by the way, if you didn't know, the Slide Master is Tom, and you can go to one of the video versions of Skynet to watch the video version. Just go to w5fc.org to find the links to the video versions. Okay, that was slide one. Slide number two. Today, June the 10th, is the third quarter moon phase. Wow. June the 17th is new moon. June the 22nd, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth, at a distance of 405,385 kilometers. June the 26th is the first quarter moon. Full moon is on July the 3rd. And on July the 4th, Independence Day, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth, at a distance of 306,149 kilometers. So it should be kind of a big full moon on the 3rd of July. Slide Master, slide number 3. In the morning twilight of June the 11th, that's going to be just a few hours from now, if it's clear. Low in the southeastern sky, you could spot the conjunction of the Pleiades and the planet Mercury. Now, you might need a pair of binoculars because it's going to be in strong twilight. Slide Master, slide number 4. Also on June the 11th, the moon and the planet Neptune will be in conjunction in the early morning sky. You will definitely need a telescope in order to see the planet Neptune. Not even binoculars will probably help you. You'll need a telescope. Slide Master, slide number 5. For several months, Venus has been hanging around in the evening sky. On June the 13th, just a few days from now, Venus will be in conjunction with the Beehive star cluster. It's also known as M44. And this will happen in the northwestern evening sky. A pair of binoculars should be able to pull out the Pleiades easily with the planet Venus. Excuse me. Slide Master, slide number 6. In the early eastern morning sky on June the 14th, the moon and the planet Jupiter will be in conjunction. Slide number 7. The next morning on June the 15th, look for the moon and the planet Uranus to be in conjunction in the northeastern sky. Now, you'll need at least a pair of binoculars, if not a telescope, to observe the planet Uranus in the sky. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. On the evening of June the 16th and 17th, the peak of the June Lyrid meteor shower with a few meteors per hour will happen. Most of the time you'll see most meteors the hour just before dawn. To get a detailed information about how to observe meteors and meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Organization at imo.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 10. On June the 21st, we'll turn to our attention to the evening sky, where the Moon and Venus will be in conjunction in the west-northwestern sky. Now, Mars is close by to the Moon and Venus. Now, what's going to be interesting is on June the 21st, during the day, you can use the Moon during the day in order to spot the planet Venus during the day. I'll talk more about that next week on Skynet, because Venus is bright enough you can see in the daytime sky, with the sun above the horizon. Slide Master, slide number 11. The June Boötes meteor shower peak is on the night of June the 26th and 27th. This meteor shower can vary between a few meteors per hour to well over 100 meteors per hour. Once again, you can go to imo.net or amsmeteors.org to get detailed information from either the International Meteor Organization or the American Meteor Society for more details about meteor showers. And this is KF5 JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 12, please. I've already talked about this, but I'll briefly do this again. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, June the 23rd at 7:30 p.m. at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is Marcus Esparza, and his topic will be Space Telescope Optics. We could focus in on that. Oh, that's right, the jokes are later on. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night because there'd be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing stations that happen on Saturday nights too, but there's been a string of bad weather on Saturday nights, so we haven't had one of those for quite some time. So go to their website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing stations. Now, Slide Master, slide number 13. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now. What's your call sign if you have a question or need a fill? Okay, hearing nothing. Slide Master, slide number 14. So as the moon is waning this week, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for a world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next time, well, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5 JHA, back to our alternate net control. I'm sorry, Brenda. I understand about moving. It's a problem, yes. Tom, it's all back to you.
Thank you, Chaz. This is KE5ICX and Net Control. My name's Tom. Tonight's Skynet. That's what you're listening to. Okay, let's see. This would be Brenda's section as well, so I'm going to give credit to her. She does and alternates with Kelly, K5KTX, space exploration and space history. So this week, Brenda put it all together. In fact, she put together most of tonight's Skynet. It's unfortunate she can't deliver it, but I don't think she minds so much because there's a lot of work when you're on most of the time. So this is what we got in space exploration news for schools, museums, and museums. 15 years after NASA opened its archive of space artifacts, schools, and museums, the program still has a lot to give. The space agency recently began accepting applications for its 60th screening of defense equipment, science experiments, and small hardware that was flown in space. Approved educational institutions, libraries, and planetariums will be able to request artifacts at no cost other than shipping and handling. Access to the full inventory of artifacts is limited to the screening participants only. NASA, though, identified a dozen items as highlights. Among them are detailed scale models of the Hubble Space Telescope, vintage replicas of the Saturn V moon rocket, and miniatures of the Apollo-Soyuz spacecraft that completed the first joint U.S. and Russian space mission in 1975. For institutions with more floor space, Forecast and Hawk are up for grabs. These two large instruments flew on board Sophia, the now retired stratospheric observatory for infrared astronomy. NASA specifically outfitted the Boeing 747 that detected water on the moon's sunlit areas and studied polarized light from the interstellar medium, respectively. Speaking of grabs, a spare mechanical arm from NASA's Viking landers is also being offered. The hardware is a leftover remnant from the United States' first exploration of the surface of Mars. Next up is the brightest cosmic explosion ever detected had other unique features. When scientists detected a gamma-ray burst known as GRB 22109A on October 9, 2022. They dubbed it the brightest of all time, or BOAT. Most gamma-ray bursts occur when the core of a star more massive than our sun collapses and becomes a black hole. These events regularly release as much energy in a few minutes as our sun will release in its entire lifetime. Follow-up studies showed that GRB 22109A was 70 times brighter and far more energetic than the previous record holder. While scientists don't yet understand why, they received a tantalizing clue from NASA's NuSTAR, which is the Nuclear Spectroscopic Telescope Array Observatory. In a study published June 7th in the journal Space Advances, scientists used NuSTAR observations of the event to show how the collapsing star ejected a jet of material that had a shape not previously observed among gamma-ray burst jets, as well as other unique characteristics. It's possible the source of these distinctions is the progenitor star, the physical properties of which could influence the characteristics of the burst. It's also possible that an entirely different mechanism launches the very brightest jets into space. Next is cosmic rays in the atmosphere. Atmospheric radiation is decreasing in 2022. Our latest measurements in July of 2022 registered a 6-year low. What's going on? Ironically, the radiation drop is caused by increasing solar activity. Solar cycle 25 has roared to life faster than forecasters expected. The sun's strengthening and increasing tangled magnetic field repels cosmic rays from deep space. In addition, solar coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, sweep aside cosmic rays, causing sharp reductions called Forbush decreases. The two effects blend together to bring daily radiation levels down. Who cares? Cosmic rays are surprisingly down-to-earth form of space weather. They can alter the chemistry of the atmosphere, trigger lightning, and penetrate commercial airplanes. According to a study from Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, crews of aircraft have higher rates of cancer than the general population. The researchers have listed cosmic rays, irregular sleep habits, and chemical contaminants as the leading risk factors. A number of controversial studies go even further, linking cosmic rays with cardiac arrhythmias and sudden cardiac death. Well, isn't that a happy story? Thanks, Brenda, for that one. We're all going to die when we get on an airplane. Now comes space birthdays. We have Shannon Walker, who was born on June 4th, 1965, astronaut. She flew on Soyuz TMA-19 and was part of Expedition Cruise 2425, SpaceX Crew 1, and would be appeared in was on board Expedition 6465. Next is Robert Kimbrough. He was born on June 4th, 1967. He flew STS-126, Soyuz MS-02, was part of the crew for Expedition 49 and 50, and SpaceX Crew 2 for Expedition 65 and 66. Next is Richard Searfoss, June 5th, 1956. He was an STS-58, 76, and 90. Jay Buckney was born June 6, 1956. He was on STS-90. David Scott of our classic astronauts, part of the, let's see here, probably the second group of astronauts, born June 6, 1932. He flew on Gemini 8, Apollo 9, and Apollo 13. Ann McCain, born June 7, 1979. An astronaut born in 1970. I'm getting old. She was on Soyuz MS-11 and Expedition 58-59. Stanley G. Love, born June 8, 1965, was on STS-122. Bruce McCandless, a rather popular astronaut, we were talking about him last week, was born June 8, 1937. He was on STS-41B and STS-31. Next up is F. Drew Gaffney, born June 9, 1946. He was on STS-40. And finally, Jim McDivitt, was born June 10, 1929. He was on Gemini 4 and Apollo 9. Next up is space history. The X-15 first glide flight was on June 8, 1959. NASA's rocket-powered X-15 experimental plane made its first glide flight. The rocket plane was part of a series of experimental hypersonic aircraft. This flight marked the beginning of almost a decade of research that explored the altitude and hypersonic speed at the edge of space. At maximum speed, the X-15 could fly at Mach 6.7, that's 4,520 miles per hour. The X-15 program had a total of 12 test pilots, including Neil Armstrong, between 1959 and 1968. Making 199 flights in the process. The aircraft flew over a period of almost 10 years, and with a maximum altitude of 67 miles, it was even able to reach the edge of outer space in the 1960s. And then on June 7, 1992, the Extreme Ultraviolet Explorer, EUVE, headed to space. For over 8 years, the EUVE spacecraft rotated as it orbited the Earth, allowing its telescopes to survey nearly the entire sky, as well as make pointed observations of stars, comets, planets, and more. And that's it for space exploration, space history, astronaut birthdays, and current news and events. I hope you enjoyed them. And I'd like to personally thank Brenda, WB50ZL, for all of these news articles. As I mentioned earlier, she did the lion's share of all this evening and never got to say a word. So, let's go ahead and let me see if there's additional check-ins before we move on to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. If you'd like to join us, please come out with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from.
Bacon, lettuce, tomato, W5BLT Bill, low power, no traffic.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Okay, we picked up two more. We got W5BLT, Bill. He says he's low power, and I believe him, and signal's weak, but I do hear you, Bill. ND5F, Virginia, over in Fort Worth. I got you checked in as well. She's back from the Batfish this week. Okay. Let's see here. Next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. That is handled by Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, you're back to it on KE5IC.
Thank you again, Tom. By the way, UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, is also known as UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. Depends on which source you go to. Depends on what the UAP stands for. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Oh, by the way, this is slide number 15. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 till May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations. So Miss Caroline covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Caroline's constellation of the week this week is Libra, the Scales. Now, Libra is a zodiacal constellation. It's one of the 12 constellations. Well, actually, there's 13 constellations that the path of the sun goes through over the course of the year. And it's the only member of the zodiac that depicts an inanimate object. The ancient Greeks did not recognize Libra. Instead, had its stars represent the claws of the adjacent constellation Scorpius. Now, other cultures, including the ancient Romans, Egyptians, Hebrews, and Indians, recognize Libra as a balance. The concept of a balanced scale in the sky originates from the equal lengths of day and night at the equinox. 2,000 years ago, September equinox was in what is now Libra. So the stars in that part of the sky came to be associated with the balanced scales. Due to precession of the equinox, the sun is now in September equinox today in the constellation of Virgo. Slide Master, slide number 16, the jokes of the week, what everyone's been waiting for. I may have to slightly change one of my jokes because I had it queued up for last week. Okay, how did the psychic achieve a work-life balance? By finding a happy medium. I hope you got that one. Now, last week, the net control was Bill, so I said, Bill, in 5BB, kept trying to balance mints on his foot. Turns out that he was playing the tic-tac-toe. Remember, this is all about the constellation of the week, which is a balance. Okay. Why did the tiger eat the tightrope walker? Well, he wanted a well-balanced diet. What do teenagers call a well-balanced meal? Well, that's easy. It's a packet of ramen noodles in each hand. Now, I have 6 goldfish named Major, Minor, Flat 9, Bebop, Altered, and Blues. The only way to tell them apart is by their scales. If you're not a musician, you probably didn't understand that one. And the final joke in this this sequence anyway. A wife saw her husband sucking in his stomach while standing on the scale and said, "That won't help." And he said, "Yes, it does. I can read the numbers now." We need a rim shot at that point, don't we? Slide master, slide number 17, please. Zupanal Ganubi is also known as Alpha Libra and is the brightest star in the constellation of Libra at magnitude 2.00. It lies very close to the ecliptic. Zupanal Ganubi is the stars we're currently in Libra. We're part of the constellation of Scorpius. We just talked about that. Zupanal Ganubi is a double star and is very easy to split or separate. It is easily split in just even a 6x30 finder scope on a telescope. Despite the wide separation, the two stars share the same proper motion and are believed to be an actual true physical pair. Zupanal Shimali is also known as Beta Libra and shines at 2.59 magnitude. The name means the northern claw. Using an 8-inch telescope at low magnification, Zupanal Shimali is nicely framed by a triangle of fainter stars, all 3 of which are similar in brightness. Slide Master, slide number 18. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog, 5897, is a globular cluster and also known as the ghost globular cluster because of how faint it is. In their book, The Night Sky Observer's Guide, George Keppel and Glenn Sander noted that in an 8 or 10-inch telescope, the globular cluster has a diffuse low surface brightness halo with poorly concentrated center. A few dozen stars may be glimpsed with averted vision with an 16 to 18-inch scope. They noted that the cluster resolves well in that size telescope. This globular cluster is very faint. It needs more aperture than an 8-inch telescope. It is faint and fuzzy. Slide master, slide number 19. PK342 plus 27.1, yeah, that's some sort of planetary nebula catalog, is a planetary nebula. As to the nebula itself, initially at low power, it looks like a faint member of a double star. Increasing magnification shows it to be an extended object, albeit a small one. At 126 power and an 8-inch telescope, the outer edges of the nebula appear somewhat fuzzy. There's eventually a bit more to see at larger instruments. Keppel and Sander, referenced them earlier, write that in a 16 and 18-inch telescope with 300 power, the 7 arcsecond diameter disk of the nebula is visible, surrounded by a star-like center. Wow. Slide master, slide number 20, please. NGC 5878 is a spiral galaxy at magnitude 12.5. That's not very bright. In an 8-inch telescope, this galaxy is right at the limit of visibility. Averted vision is a must. That's when you actually don't stare at the object, but off to the edge, because the center of your eye is not as sensitive to faint light as the off the center of your eye. So averted vision is what a lot of astronomers use, looking at faint fuzzy things. This object appears to be elongated faint glow, just barely visible in an 8-inch telescope. The long axis is aligned, the north-south line. Slide master, slide number 21. ARP 254, it's also known as NGC 5917, is a challenging object. According to the book of the ARP Atlas of Peculiar Galaxies, that's what ARP stands for. And it's the guy who made a list of galaxies that look strange. NGC 5917 is a faint companion galaxy known as MCG-1-39-3, and a tenuous bridge presuming of stars, gas, and dust connects them. Close examination of photos taken by the Large Observatory Telescope show that the interiors of both galaxies appear to have affected each other. Since the system is totally isolated in intergalactic space, the bridge and the disturbance appears to be of the disk suggests the galactic sideswipe of one of the galaxies sideswiping the other one. In an 8-inch telescope, nor a 16-inch telescope, they can't really be seen. This object is for astrophotographers to explore, not for visual observers. Oh well, not even my 16-inch telescope can spot it. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 22. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Libra, the scales. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League had, at last count, 75 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. I understand they're going to be adding a couple more observing programs soon. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program, since there's 100 in each of them, or roughly that, if you observe 10 objects in a program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. And slide master, slide number 23, that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Libra, the scales. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website, constellation-guide.com, for information. Now, next time I'll take a look at a twofer, Boötes, the Shepherd, and Corona Borealis, the Northern Crown. Well, that should be interesting. And this is KF5, JHA, sending it back to our net control. Tom, back to you, 73, everyone.
Very good. Thank you, Jazz. Thank you for what you do every week. That's a lot of work that you put in for those two segments. Appreciate it very much. This is KE5ICX Net Control for tonight's Skynet in for Brenda and her ailing antenna this evening. So, playing substitute teacher. So the next section is space launches for this week. I'll go ahead and go through these. This information comes from primarily Spaceflight Now. Go to spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. You'll find the same information I'm reading from tonight. So we have in June, or the remainder of June, June 12th, that would be in a couple of days, we have from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Base in Florida. The Falcon 9 launch will be 52 Starlink V 1.5 Internet satellites. First stage will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. June 12th, Falcon 9 again, this time launching the Transporter 8 from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. That's at SLC-4E. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch Transporter 8 mission, a ride-share flight to the sun-synchronous orbit with numerous small microsatellites and nanosatellites for commercial and government customers. Then we have another Falcon 9 launch sometime in June. No date given. This will be Starlink 5-12 from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. Another batch of the 1.5 Starlink Internet satellites. The first stage will land in the Atlantic Ocean on a drone ship. June 16th, the Ariane 5 will launch Syracuse 4B and Heinrich Hertz from ELA-3 Conroux, French Guiana. The Ariane 5 ECA rocket, designated VA-260, to launch the Syracuse 4B and Heinrich Hertz communications satellites. Syracuse 4B, built by Airbus, will relay secure communications between the French military aircraft, ground vehicles, and naval vessels, including submarines. The Heinrich Hertz satellite, built by OHB, tests new communications technologies on missions funded by the German government. This will be the final launch of an Ariane 5 rocket. We have on June 19th, Falcon 9 launched the Cetria. This will be from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral in Florida. The Cetria communications satellite for the Indonesian government and the Indonesian satellite operator PSN. Cetria satellite will provide broadband internet and communications capability for schools, hospitals, and public use facilities in Indonesia's rural regions. The satellite was built by Tau Alenia Space and is based on the Spacebus Neo platform. The first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Next up, June 21st, will be the Delta IV Heavy launch of Enroll 68. That will be from Cape Canaveral, from SOC-37B. The United States Alliance Delta IV Heavy will launch a classified spy satellite cargo for the U.S. Reconnaissance Office. The largest of the Delta IV family, the Heavy version, features 3 Common Core booster cores mounted together to form a triple-body rocket. On May 27th, will be another Falcon 9 launch, Star 5-7. This will be from Vandenberg, another Starlink V 1.5 launch. Then we have on May 11th, I'm reading from the updated part. And we have here on a date to be determined, Falcon 9 O3B M-Power 5 and 6 that will launch from SOC-40. This will be 2 satellites, the third pair of the O3B M-Power broadband internet satellites into medium Earth orbit from SES of Luxembourg. Then, let's see, I'm going to end it with this one. We have a Falcon 9 launch from SLC-4E Vandenberg for the Trajectory Space Development Agency. The launch is the second of 2 Falcon 9 missions to carry SDA demonstration spacecraft for future Constellation and military missile tracking and data relay satellites. The Falcon 9 first stage booster will land in landing zone 4 at Vandenberg. All right, here, let me pull up this article. This is normally something Brenda would read, so I've got to bring it up manually, as it's not in my script, but I do have it here. And let me throw a picture of what we're talking about onto the video, and now I'll do this. I got to do everything at the same time. All right, here we go. So this is Brenda's recent astronomical discoveries. It says new study identifies mechanism driving the sun's fast wind. This comes from Science News from June 7. Researchers used data from NASA's Parker Solar Probe to explain how the solar wind is capable of surpassing speeds of 1 million miles per hour. They discovered the energy released from the magnetic field near the sun's surface is powerful enough to drive a fast solar wind, which is made up of ionized particles called plasma, and that flow outward from the sun. In a paper published in the journal Nature, the team of researchers used data from NASA's Parker probe to explain the solar wind. James Drake, a distinguished university professor at the University of Maryland Department of Physics and Institute of Physical Sciences and Technology, or IPSC, co-led this research along with first author Stuart Vail of UK Berkeley. Drake said that scientists have been trying to understand solar wind drivers since the 1950s, and with the world more interconnected than ever, the implications for Earth are significant. Solar wind forms a gigantic magnetic bubble known as the heliosphere, which protects planets in our solar system from a barrage of high-energy cosmic rays that whip around the galaxy. However, the solar wind also carries plasma and part of the sun's magnetic field, which can crash into Earth's magnetosphere and cause disturbances, including geomagnetic storms. These storms occur when the sun experiences more turbulent activity, including solar flares and enormous expulsions of plasma into space, known as coronal mass ejection. Geomagnetic storms are responsible for spectacular aurora light shows that can be seen near the Earth's poles. But at their most powerful, they can knock out a city's power grid and potentially even disrupt global communications. Such events, while rare, can also be deadly to astronauts in space. Winds carry a lot of information about the sun to Earth, so understanding the mechanism behind the wind is important for practical reasons on Earth, Drake said. That's going to affect our ability to understand how the sun releases energy and drives geomagnetic storms, which are a threat to our communications network. Previous studies revealed the sun's magnetic field was somehow driving the solar wind, but researchers didn't know the underlying mechanism. Earlier this year, Drake co-authored a paper which argued that the heating and acceleration of solar wind is driven by magnetic reconnection, a process that Drake has dedicated his scientific career to studying. The authors explained that the entire surface of the sun is covered in small jetlets of hot plasma that are plasma that are propelled upward by magnetic reconnection, which occurs when magnetic fields pointing in opposite directions cross-connect. In turn, this triggers the release of massive amounts of energy. Two things pointing in opposite directions often wind up annihilating each other, and in this case, doing so releases magnetic energy, Drake said. These explosions that happen on the sun are all driven by that mechanism. It's the annihilation of the magnetic field. To better understand these processes, the authors of the new Nature paper used data from the Parker Solar Probe to analyze the plasma flowing out of the corona, the outermost and hottest layer of the sun. In April 2021, Parker became the first spacecraft to enter the sun's corona and has been nudging closer to the sun ever since. The data cited in this paper was taken at a distance of 13 solar radii, or roughly 5.6 million miles from the sun. When you get very close to the sun, you start seeing stuff you just can't see on Earth, Drake said. All the satellites that surround Earth are 210 solar radii from the sun, and now we're down to 13. We're about to get as close as we're going to get. Using this new data, the Nature paper authors provided the first characterization of bursts of magnetic energy that occur in coronal holes, which are openings in the sun's magnetic field, as well as the source of the solar wind. Research has demonstrated the magnetic reconnection between open and closed magnetic fields, known as interchange connection, is a continuous process rather than a series of isolated events as previously thought. This led them to conclude that the rate of magnetic energy release, which drives the outward jet of heated plasma, was powerful enough to overcome gravity and produce the sun's fast wind. By understanding these smaller releases of energy that are constantly occurring on the sun, researchers hope to understand and possibly even predict the larger and more dangerous eruptions that launch plasma out into space. In addition to the implications for Earth, findings from this study can be applied to other areas of astronomy as well. Winds are produced by objects throughout the universe, so understanding what drives the wind from the sun has broad implications, Drake said. Winds from stars, for example, play a crucial role in shielding planetary systems from galactic cosmic rays which can impact habitability. This would not only aid our understanding of the universe, but possibly also the search for life on other planets. Again, this article came from Science Daily. The new study identifies mechanisms driving the sun's fast wind. You can go to their website and find out more information and hot links describing more about this phenomenon. This is KE5ICX, the next control for tonight's Skynet. I'll go ahead and pause and take additional check-ins at this point, and then we'll continue with visible satellite passages. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Good evening, this is Alpha Golf, Nider, Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
This is Kilo India 5, Uniform Julia, Dustin, Mobile and Allen.
All right, we picked up two more. I've got AG9SG, Antonio in Dallas, and KI5UUJ, Dustin, and somewhere mobile in Allen. Anyone else?
This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas.
Okay, we picked up one more, KG5EIU, David over in St. Paul, and that was on that route. Very good. Okay, next up is, let's see, satellite passages over the next few days. Nothing from the International Space Station, I'm sorry to say. However, I do have a number from Ian Vaughn. I don't know if I'll go through all of these because it is kind of monotonous as I read these things off. But let me give you a few of these passes, which are quite good. We have June 11th. This will be a minus 1.1 magnitude at 5:07 a.m. It reaches its highest point at 47 degrees at 5:11. Fall to the east at 5:14. On June 12th, actually there's two passes, but I'm going to give you the better of the two. We have in the morning a minus 1.8 magnitude at 5:46 a.m. out of the west-northwest. Reaches its highest point at 44 degrees and falls to the southeast at 5:52. June 13th also has a good pass, minus 2.2 magnitude. This one's at 4:48 a.m. This may be the one to see if you're going to look for the Tian Gong. This is at 4:48 a.m. out of the west-northwest. It will reach its highest point at 88 degrees at 4:50, and then it will fall at 4:53 to the east-southeast. Currently, there are three Chinese astronauts in orbit, so when you see that go over, it is manned spacecraft. On June 14th, we have a decent pass. Actually, there's three passes that day. This one's in the evening, minus 2.2 magnitude. 21:57 in the evening out of the southwest, reaches its highest point at 2200 at 64 degrees, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 2102. Let's see here. We also have June 16th, minus 1.6 magnitude, 2136 in the evening. Reaches its highest point at 2140 at 62 degrees, and will fall to the east-northeast at 2143. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. We have a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and ask if anyone has any questions they'd like to bring to the net at this point. If you'd like to ask any questions, we have the experts here. I'll be happy to answer them. Astronomy, space exploration, whatever you got. Please come now with your call. I'll go ahead and take any final check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
right, we picked up Tony, NT5TM. Tony, I got you checked in. We did read all of your announcements, so you were thought of during those announcements. Okay, does anyone, said earlier, but I'll ask again before we close it out. Okay, hearing none, tonight we had 27 hams participating on the air, including myself. Thanks to all of you who checked in. Hope you join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and exploration. Because on this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations, and we really are. If you're interested for this or any of the other DARC nets, you can send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can also follow topics and discussion about this nest and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful resources by going to the website, which is w5fc.org, including this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Top, and I'll be closing the net at 22:24 local time. 7-3, everyone. Come back in about 10 minutes. We'll give it 10 minutes. And we will begin tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight's movie is Star Trek Beyond. Star Trek Beyond from 2016. I wrote the wrong date down earlier. 2016. We'll see you then. This is KE5I6. Clear for now.
normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
I think it's time to get started. Now it's time for the Afterglow Movie Net. Geez, you heard me all evening long. We get to hear me more. This is Tom, KE5ICX. And tonight's movie is, after a quick substitution, Star Trek Beyond. We were just going to do Star Trek. Nothing more, nothing less from 2009, but it got pulled from Pluto TV. So Star Trek Beyond is only one of the 3 new Star Trek films still left on the website, so we watched it. Let me tell you a little bit about the film. First off, it was 2016 that it came out. It was directed by Justin Lin. It was written by Simon Pegg, that you remember played Scotty in the series, and Doug Jung, and it's based on the television series Star Trek. 13th film in the Star Trek franchise, third installment in the reboot series, which started with Star Trek in 2009, Star Trek Into Darkness in 2013, and finally this film with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto. So it was principally filmed in Vancouver and premiered in Sydney on July 7, 2016, and was released in the United States on July 22nd by Paramount Pictures. The film is dedicated in memory of Yacht, as well as actor Leonard Nimoy, who died during pre-production. The film grossed $343.5 million box office and received positive reviews from critics. At the 89th Academy Awards, the film was nominated for Best Makeup and Hairstyling. I'll go through the script. It's about medium length. The Starship Enterprise arrives at Yorktown for resupply and shore leave for its crew, struggling to find meaning in their expeditions. An exploration box is replacement. Meanwhile, Sulu reunites with his family. Scott works to keep the ship operational, and Spock and Uhura end their relationship. Spock also receives word from New Vulcan that Ambassador Spock has died. Enterprise is dispatched to a rescue mission on an emergency as an escape pod drifts out of a nearby uncharted nebula. Its occupant, Kalara, claims her ship is stranded in Ultimate, a planet in the nebula. Upon arrival, a massive swarm of small ships ambushes the Enterprise and quickly begins to tear it apart. The swarm's leader, Krau, and his crew bound aboard the crippled Enterprise, capturing so many of the crew members in an attempt to capture Albranet, a relic recovered during a recent mission. Kirk orders the crew to abandon ship, leaving the disintegrating Enterprise saucer section to crash. On the planet, Krau captures Sulu, Uhura, and other survivors. Kirk and Chekhov, accompanied by Kalara, locate the Enterprise saucer section. Knowing that Kalara knew they would be attacked, Kirk tricks her into revealing herself as Krau's spy. She is killed when Kirk and Chekhov escape Krau's soldiers and flip the Enterprise saucer, crushing her. Elsewhere on the planet, Dr. Leonard McCoy and the wounded Spock search for survival. Spock tells McCoy that he ended his relationship with Uhura and is leaving Starfleet to help the Vulcan survivors continue the late Ambassador Spock's work. Jayla, a scavenger who previously escaped Krau's encampment where her father was killed, rescues Scott and takes him to her makeshift home, the grounded USS Franklin, an early Starfleet vessel reported missing over a century earlier. Spock is reunited with Kirk, Chekhov, McCoy, and Spock. Krau forces the Captain Enterprise crew to hand over the Albranet, then uses it to complete an ancient bioweapon. The device is complete. Krau intends to kill Yorktown's inhabitants and use the base to attack the United Federation of Planets. Kirk and the other free the crew of Krau as Krau launches into space with the bioweapon, leading his drones to Yorktown. The Enterprise survivors power up the Franklin and launch her in pursuit of Krau. They arrive in the swarm system may be vulnerable to high frequencies such as VHF or radio. Who knew? They jam and destroy the swarm by broadcasting the song Sabotage by the Beastie Boys. Krau is chased by the Franklin through the Yorktown. Uhura, Kirk, and Scotty discover from the Franklin's log that Krau is actually Balthazar Edison, Franklin's former captain. A pre-Federation human soldier, Edison rejected the Federation's principles of unity and cooperation with former enemies such as Indy and the Romulans. He and his crew were stranded on Ultramed by a wormhole the survivors used to extinct native technology to prolong their lives at the cost of the others and repurpose the ancient race's dormant mining drones into worms. Thinking Enterprise has abandoned them, Edison planned to destroy the Federation and resume galactic conflict. Kirk pursues Edison into Yorktown's ventilation system, where Edison activates the bioweapon. Before it can spread, Kirk ejects it and Edison into space, where the weapon disintegrates Edison. Using a commandeered alien ship, Spock and McCoy save Kirk's moments before he is blown into space. In the aftermath, Commodore Paris closes the files of Captain Edison and the USS Franklin crew. Though offered the promotion to Vice Admiral, Kirk decides to remain as the captain. Spock chooses to remain in Starfleet, relationship to Uhura. On Kirk's recommendation, Jayla is accepted to Starfleet Academy. As the crew celebrates Kirk's birthday, they watch the construction of their new ship, the USS Enterprise A, and resume their mission. The end. With that, and hearing that wonderful and interesting summary, we'll go ahead and take check-ins. This is your opportunity to discuss this movie. Maybe you've seen it just this week, or maybe you've seen it in the past. In any case, if you've seen it, you're welcome to discuss it. And if you haven't seen it, that's okay too. We don't care. You can talk about anything you want, because we're that lenient when it comes to talking about our films, especially after Jetstream from last week. Quite probably the worst movie ever made. So this is definitely a step up. I will now take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie. Please come now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Yeah, I saw a little of it.
Kilo Bravo 9, 0 Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen this film.
DCG, this is John. I believe I have seen the movie.
Okay, I picked up three. I've got NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yep, he saw the movie. KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. Yep, he saw the movie. And KF5DCG, John over in Echolinky. Yes, he saw the movie. Additional check-ins come now.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda DeSoto.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington. Yes, I saw the film.
Kidoki, we picked up WB9, WB5. I did 9, but I got you now. WB5SOZL. Brenda over in DeSoto. Yes, she saw the film. KI5KWG. Chris Cruz in Arlington. Yes, he saw the film. Anyone else? Please come out. Okay, there's usually stragglers that will come along a little bit later, particularly with a popular film, which I think this one was. We'll have additional check-ins as we go. So these are the rules. Everybody knows them. We'll go through plot. After that, we'll go through characterization. And then after after that, we'll talk about special effects and anything else that we haven't discussed up till then. That should take us up to 12 o'clock or less, depending on how much we have in the way of discussion. So we'll go down the list in order. We'll make it easy on everyone. We'll start with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, you saw a little bit of the movie. What little bit did you see, and what did you think of it from KE5ICX?
Good evening, Tom. Well, this movie really got my attention because it's clear that I have missed at least one reboot of this franchise. Maybe more than one, but here we are in the third movie of the latest reboot. It was loud and colorful, and there were a lot of things going kaboom and smashing and quite a bit of violence and collisions and things re-entering the atmosphere under control, or not so much control. I guess I would say I saw about the first 35 minutes or so of it. The plot was certainly very much like one might see in a big mass market movie with a lot of money, and I'll probably keep watching it till the end just to see what happens, which is after all their goal. It was neither exciting nor depressing nor off-putting nor engaging. It was just kind of like, oh, wow, a movie. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. Yeah, I get your vibe. I'll have something to say about that when I get to my turn. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. That's Sean over in Fort Worth. Sean, your thoughts on this motion picture, Star Trek Beyond, from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I was actually initially a little bit bummed that we didn't get to do the first movie because out of the three, it was my favorite. This one falls in a relatively close second, and that second one was just not good. But we're talking about the third one. Well, just as Tony kind of described it in a way. Yes, there's obviously a lot of action. Of course, they got to have that in a major film like this because of money. That brings people in. Yada, yada, yada. But for the most part, once again, of course, it's science fiction. So sometimes you just got to let go and not look at all the tiny pieces. Well, that's not realistic. That couldn't happen. But if you put all that aside, mostly the plot was decent. The one part is kind of, the show started out typical, what seems to be with this reboot, that our famous captain doesn't really want to be a captain. And this has been a repeat in the three films. I know this is kind of a character thing, but being that this is a major plot twist in it, to me it felt like this was just, it's been overdone. I understand in the first movie it made perfect sense, because of his father dying, he didn't have that father figure. But by now he should be over that because the third film, it was just, they didn't really need that part. They could have spent that time developing the character in a different way. So I was a little disappointed with them kind of, once again, kind of going over the same things they did in the two previous movies, which it's starting to get a little, hopefully in the fourth movie is coming out, hopefully they will move on with the storyline. But other than that, there's a few little plot things that were strange, and probably the biggest one was the ending that Tom alluded to, with using the radio frequencies to disrupt the drones to save the day. It magically caused them to blow up, which made no sense to me. This seemed kind of odd, because even if you did disrupt their communication, they should have just stopped and not ran into each other. After all, even our drones we have in our sky today, those groups that do the giant light displays, they actually have dual communication, just so that situation doesn't happen. And if it does happen, the things just simply shut down and just hover. They stop moving. So that part of the plot seemed to me pretty unlikely. It made for very, very pretty visual, and I'm sure that's primarily why they did it. But that part I found a little bit, didn't make a whole lot of sense. I wish they'd found a little bit better way to resolve that, but it is what it is. But yes, there was lots of action. All in all, it was enjoyable. We do get not a whole lot of character development in this film, in reality, but but it definitely continues the story somewhat. It seems like there's a couple of little plot twists that didn't make a lot of sense. Let's see, I had to find my papers here, my notes. Let's see. Well, I can't seem to find where I wrote it down, but yeah, there's a couple other things to me that didn't make a lot of sense in this. Well, for one, I know, like the ship, the Franklin, that was, supposedly cloaked on that mountain, but yet the leader on the planet was the former captain. You think he would have known where he crashed his ship, so why was she hiding it? What good was that actually doing her? that didn't make a lot of sense. But anyway, all in all, it was okay. It was enjoyable, and way better than what we watched last week. So anyway, back to that. KB9, that's okay.
Sean, logic error hiding in plain sight. I didn't even think about that, and you're absolutely right. Well, what do we know? I guess I was still trying to get over all of the pew, 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 pew that went on, because there was a lot of that. Okay, let's see here. John, KF5DCG over on Echolink. John, your thoughts on the plot for our fine film, Star Trek Beyond, from 2015, KE5ICX.
DCG, John report. It's been a long time. I don't know how, I don't remember a whole lot of details, but I've always been a big Star Trek fan in general, even going back to the original TV show back, from the 60s. The movies just seem to melt the I guess the concept of Star Trek, and I kind of wish for more unique storylines more than anything else, but I just really don't remember a lot of details, so I don't have a lot I wanted to check in. But this is KF5DCG, back to net.
All right, John. Well, we'll just hang in there. We've got a couple more rounds to go. I'm sure you'll think of some other things to say about the film. I'll be honest with you. I'll cut in and say that on this one, it's kind of short on plot. I mean, I think this has been done before in a few movies and things. But overall, I think it was the special effects extravaganza is what they wanted to do. And they succeeded, but we'll talk about that when the time comes. Next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, what did you think of the plot for our fine film this evening?
This is WB5OZL. Well, I really enjoyed this movie because it was a lot of excitement and our characters that we love, and music, and Star Trek. We love Star Trek. Having said that, I find it a little bit lacking in substance. One of the, to me, appeal of the first two Star Trek series was the thought-provoking ideas that some of the episodes had. Made you think and grappled with social issues, and it was very interesting. This was just a video game. It was just fun, which is okay. It is what it is. Just a little exploration of life, mysteries or something. But that's okay. I enjoyed it. Dr. Net, WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And I think you covered it pretty well. Let's see here. Next is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what do you think? What are we all wet? Is there something more to this that we're missing from KE5ITX?
KI5KWG could have been. It was a could have been sort of movie, I think. I had just written down as we were starting here sort of an ordinal thing on stories. There's movies that are in television that are eye candy, and level up from that at least are good stories, imaginative stories. And I think Star Trek original series episodes and Twilight Zone are really good examples of that. And a few of those stray into a higher catalog category that I wrote down, and that's important stories. And I thought there was a real could have been here, but we didn't get it until the last 30 minutes. And it was in passing, basically. Let me reset. I was really intrigued with the bad guy revelation, kind of pulling the veil back on when we're finding out that he was the former captain of the Franklin, I think it was, and that he basically turned against Starfleet because he was basically left wounded and left behind enemy lines, and no one ever came to save him. And over the years, that became a bitterness. And you wanted redemption for him, and there was that very scene. It was very brief, but the Captain Kirk character is showing some empathy, and then they go into their death match. But I thought that would have been a much better story to have developed, and a more important story to have developed. But instead, we got over-the-top graphic images and motorcycle chases and rip-offs from the Death Star obstacle course firefight, etc. Let's see. Other notes I've got, not very important here is it was an intriguing Easter egg, I think, maybe in there. I think that's Channel 2 from what I looked when I looked it up, of the original TV stations and channels. I really don't have much on this one, and I'm very short on sleep, but I'm going to try to hang in here. But that's what I've got on the plot. KI5KWG, back to net.
Well, I knew you would pull something out, Cruz. You always do. You redeemed this movie with a redemption story. So how much more perfect could that be? All right, before I make my comments, I'll go ahead and ask if anybody else is out there who'd like to check in. Tonight's movie we're discussing is Star Trek Beyond from 2016, the third in the new Star Trek films. By the way, once again, there will be another Star Trek J.J. Abrams style film, or so we've been told. It's been on again, off again, on again, off again. It's on again for the third time. So we'll have to see. This was the last film in this series, and it's 2016, and what are we, 2023? It's been a while, 7 years. It's a long time. It's the longest that we've gone without a Star Trek film series without this since the original hiatus on the film series. So anybody else want to join us, please come now with your call.
Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, W5BLT. Bill, and I don't think I saw this movie. I actually watched the 2009 one. This one I haven't seen. But I wanted to check in. W5BLT, back to you, Tom.
All right, thank you, Bill. And it's through no fault of your own. That was the original film that we were going to watch, and Tony, NT5TM, sent me a note, I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, to let me know that the link no longer works, because I would have probably just gone on and said, let's go do this movie, And we probably would have limped along okay without any problems, but who knows? It's hard to say whether people would have participated or not. So I quickly shifted to Star Trek Beyond. Although, to be honest with you, I seriously considered doing Star Trek Strange New Worlds because it is available for free, first season, the entire thing, before the launch next Thursday. So you have an opportunity to see that new series with Captain Pike that came out last year. It is available on YouTube for at least a few more days. But Bill, you saw the original, which is perfectly fine. What do you think? Is this reboot worthy? Did the story stand up to the original series, do you think? I'll let you go ahead and make comments that way. How about that? KE5ITS.
Okay. I may be in the minority. Of course, I can address the 2009, and then I was looking at some plot lines, for these other movies, and I think I saw the one with Khan, the remake they had done. Typically I'm not a big fan of these. The 2009, it's kind of weird because then they changed the history when Nero came back through time, and it was nice to see Leonard Nimoy, and I think they could have had a really good storyline with the younger characters, maybe or Captain Kirk and all these guys younger, but they, without giving too much away, they changed history. Maybe everybody's seen the 2009 version, I don't know, but anyway, it changed history, and rather than going back through time and stopping Nero, they didn't. And then we get these other two movies and maybe a fourth. So I don't know. It was hard for me because I just like the originals, and it's kind of the same thing with the remakes or Star Wars movies. I just lose something when it's, I don't know, I wish Hollywood would just reinvent their own characters and maybe leave the classics alone. But that's my opinion, and like I said, I might be in the minority. But if I had never seen the original Star Wars or Star Trek, I probably could have gone along with the 2009 reboot of Star Trek if I hadn't been so entrenched in the original. I did think the two best characters, though, Spock and Scotty, I don't know visually, but auditorily, they sounded very close to the original characters, so those were two probably my favorites. And honestly, I'm just, the Captain Kirk character kind of grated on me. I know that's characterization, so I'll save that. But anyway, that's my thoughts. W5BLT.
Well, thank you, Bill. And, I'm going to go ahead and glob on to some of the things you said because they did cross my mind, and that has to do with Star Trek as a movie. It was originally meant and envisioned as a continuing series, episodic television, and it was designed on a smaller budget, although it still kind of broke the budget anyway. In fact, I think they lost money when they were doing the television series because of the special optical effects and some of the set dressings, even though it looked cheap. Even cheap was expensive when you start adding up all the costs that went into making this thing. They even did filming earlier so that they could, earlier in the year, so they could get episodes in the can and out onto the network fast enough. Back then, you didn't have what today is considered like 10 episodes. They were doing 23 episodes or a quarter of the season. That's a lot of episodes to have to put out, one a week. So it was very difficult to do, and you had a budget for the entire year, and once you parceled it all out, it got very expensive very quickly. And so Star Trek was expensive to produce, even though they didn't have let's put it this way, it cost more than they were paying for the series. And it was only in reruns that they started making money. But that's just an aside. As far as the movie versions, of course, you're making a big movie production, and you want something other than your Star Trek core audience. You want mainly kids who they've got money that'll go and watch the movie once, twice, 3 times. Star Wars isn't lost on anybody. That continues to this day to be a big box office winner. Paramount's answer to that has always been Star Trek. So when they think they can do it, they do it. The problem is, in this case, they put a lot of money up front to make Star Wars, when in fact this is Star Trek. There's some cynicism out there. Somebody says that Star Trek 2009 is the best Star Wars movie ever made. And to some extent, they're probably right, because it's more Star Wars than Star Trek. And that's probably one of the biggest issues I've got is that, Star Trek has episodic television designed to tell smaller stories, more intimate stories along the way. Classic tales, of course, but to do it in a way that was self-contained, to move on to your next adventure, literally, and the Enterprise will move on to do something else. With that being said, instead, when you've got a big motion picture, you've got to have an arch villain, apparently, is a requirement, especially after Khan in Star Trek 2. Certainly Star Trek 1 had a, quote, villain, but it was a machine on episode. So it had that element to it, which was more Star Trek, but it went too long. It could have been easily an hour program and done just fine, so it was an episode out of water. The movies always are big epic productions with lots of money, or at least the perception of that, and lots of explosions. Star Trek wasn't meant to be Star Wars. It was meant to be more cerebral, more overarching, with morality plays with our heroes in those morality situations, and make you think about what you saw, talk about it when you left. At the conclusion, or in the theater, what you want to say is, wow, those explosions were really great. And indeed they were, and there was a lot of special effects, but that's not what we go to Star Trek for, at least I don't. I go for a story that it always ends up the same. You end up with all of this that we just saw. With that being said, was it bad? No, I watch it, and it's entertaining. I roll my eyes when I see some of the things that are done that are way over the top that didn't need to happen. I would rather they slow the movie down and actually give us more plot, but that's not going to happen, especially when you're spending, what, $300-some-odd million to make the movie? How much was it? Oh, it's gross $343 million. I don't know how much it cost. Probably about the same amount. That's why they stopped making them. But, oh well, I'm rambling on. Let's see. Let's go ahead and go to the top of the list. We will discuss characterization. Now, that might be something a little different. So we'll start with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, what do you think of characterization? This might be a good one comparing against previous actors who have played these roles. I don't know. Or it could be just simply self-contained. How did they do in playing their characters in this particular movie? From KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. I wish I had something more interesting to say. I did enjoy hearing everyone's comments, and I haven't been trying to watch the movie any further because everyone here is more interesting than that. The characters were, reasonably typical. Kirk was very decisive and emphatic, and Bones was reasonably a little bit more adventuresome than I'm used to seeing, but he did his job, as did Montgomery, Scott, and Spock. Everyone seemed to be, adhering to the usual tropes as far as I saw. No one on the other hand, I guess it was a little said was being original or creative. Again, in the part that I saw, that would have been kind of refreshing if I'd seen something really surprising. Ooh, that's an interesting take, but I did not. You know, that could be in the other two movies or in the great majority of this movie that I did not see. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I guess it's going to be a short one from you tonight. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think of the characterization in our movie this week, Star Trek Beyond, from KE5ITM?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, yeah, I think everybody's definitely touched on it. This is like a story, so it was hard to really develop the characters. I feel the first movie did a better job of that. We definitely, in the first one, got to see Spock's struggles with whether he wanted to be in Starfleet and then what happened once he got there. And then we've seen Kirk struggling with, the loss of his father. So we definitely had a lot more to work with in the first movie. So the third movie, it was not a lot of plot, not a lot of development. Also being a fan of the original series, I remember going to the theater to see the first one of this reboot, and I was expecting it to be just total crap, to be quite honest. It's hard to reboot things, and because you're so familiar with the characters. And I ended up liking it more than I thought I would. I at least came out there and think, oh, that was okay. But yes, I agree. I still enjoy the original better. As you've said, and a few others, Tom, that this is, obviously the TV series, we got to see, them deal with moral decisions, and, we got a lot of character development. So yeah, you feel like you get to know these characters much more deeply in the TV series, which is enjoyable. So yeah, I would agree with that, and I agree with the comments too. I can't remember now who said it. It might have been Cruz, about the whole, I kind of wish, you think about the Star Trek universe. I mean, you got the whole time and space. I mean, you got, years to work with. So it would be nice to see them start to develop, something unique. You could do other things in that universe. It doesn't have to always be the original crew. And I think Star Trek The Next Generation proved that, even though it was in the same vein, but it was different people forward in time, and you got to tell, even though some of the stories were duplicated, but they got to tell some new stories. So it was really nice. Once again, you kind of had that feel of the original series, but with different people. And I agree. I think they need to do more of that. And that's been, we've kind of been grouping this in with Star Wars. That's been one of the problems with the Star Wars series. They keep dwelling on the past, and really the best thing that's come out of the Star Wars has been like The Mandalorian, at least the first couple of seasons anyway, because once again it went someplace different, but yet it was within that universe. But I think these companies are just so scared to take a chance on a new storyline that they're going to lose all their money because they put so much money into this. But as you mentioned, the Strange New Worlds did a very nice job last season, kind of going back to traditional Star Trek and doing basically these one-off stories, and you learn a lot about the characters in the first season. And so yeah, I'm really looking for the second season. But I did think it was a little bit interesting how the Spock's character here in these movies did have a little bit of similarity actually to the Spock in the Strange New Worlds. It seems like there's some similar struggles. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But as far as our current movies that we watched, I think the actors did a pretty good job with what they had to work with. It's probably a little bit daunting to try to step into these character roles, and especially when they don't give them a lot to work with. And I actually think the character who played Spock did rather well. I really like Scotty. I think Uhura did very good too. And then Bones too. I thought he was good. My least favorite, unfortunately, was Captain Kirk. I think he was almost the least like what I would have expected him to be, and just didn't enjoy that character as much. And I remember seeing an interview that they did with him, and he said he intentionally tried not to mimic, how it was played before, and I could see the point, but in some ways it did feel like a different character. And I know they tried to use the time change as why he was different, but so that part, yeah, this movie was definitely lacking in characterization this time around. They did do better at the first movie with that. But, yeah, I guess we'll wait and see what they do at the next one. Yeah, back to net control. This is KB9 SOK.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. Very good points, by the way. I'll mention some of mine along the way later on, too, probably in agreement. Next up is John, KF5DCG. John, what did you think of characterization on our film this evening from KE5ITX? KF5DCG. John, are you out there? Maybe you fell asleep. It's entirely possible. It's only like 11:15. Let's try again. Are you there? Okay, he may have fallen asleep. I'm going to put a little asterisk by his name and come back to him a little later. WB50ZL, Brenda, what did you think of characterization on our fine film, Star Trek Beyond?
This is WB50ZL. Well, you know, I can go here. All of our favorite characters. Sometimes it's a little adjust to different actors here, but that was good. I loved Jayla, the new character that they introduced. And see more of her. You know, it's kind of a question of whether we like the characters, you know, that writes itself. So we locked into the storyline, the way it's already set up. These actors are really good at this, did a good job. Back to that, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Boy, the comments are going to be short this evening. Next, Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, what'd you think of characterization from KE5IQ?
KI5KWG. Characterization, the only thing I noted was Jayla, Sofia Boutella, French actress. I just looked her up while we've been chatting. And I thought that was a good character, and that she carried her scenes really well. And so she gets the honorable mention from me tonight, and the others are very familiar for the Trekkies. As well as the actors, as well as the characters. You didn't say talk about anything, so I have a couple of notes here. One is, before Tony goes to bed, if he hadn't already, earlier tonight on, I think, TechNet, he mentioned an article about psychiatry and a new treatment, bringing a woman out of a 20-year catatonic state. And I read that article, and I wanted to thank him. I know somebody that succumbed to something very similar, and that was a wonderful hope, and I've been sharing it with people online since then, and so I really wanted to thank Tony for that. From another net, we had a comment from Bill in 5BB about AI contacts that in the future might very well be from an alien contacts might be from an alien AI, and gave some good justifications for that theory. And as soon as he said that, I thought of Veacher from the original motion picture, and that was a neat connection considering we were doing a Star Trek tonight, and I thought I'd bring that up for y'all. And the last note I've got is I read this in trivia on IMDb. I think early scene, Captain's Log 960, day 966, I think it says. Let me reset. And someone pointed out that that was almost exactly the number of days of a 5-year mission that the original series lasted. And so this film represents the first episode, if you will, of what happened after the last episode of the TV series. So I thought that was kind of a cool comment. I think that's what I've got for y'all tonight. KI5, KWG, back to net.
Very good. Thank you, Cruz. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, well, let's see, characterization. Well, let's make it very general. Bill, what do you think about the recast characters from Star Trek in this movie series? Do they live up to expectations or not, at least from the movie you saw, from KE5ICX?
Yeah, I think they all did, except for one, and that's the actor that was playing Captain Kirk. I just found he just seemed very arrogant and annoying to me. Kirk was, like William Shatner. He's confident in himself, a little cocky, but likable. I just didn't like this recast of Captain Kirk. I like the rest of the characters, but his voice just grated on my nerves. It was kind of the same reason I didn't like Voyager, or not Voyager. Sorry, now I'm back on Voyager again. Yeah, maybe it was Voyager. I'm sorry, with Janeway. I just didn't like her voice for some reason. So it was just kind of weird. I don't know. The characters are sometimes just hard for me to get into and believable. And so when you're used to kind of William Shatner playing it and then seeing somebody else, it now makes sense that he intentionally tried not to play how the William Shatner did Captain Kirk. So that kind of makes sense now to me, having heard that comment. So yeah, I mean, I'll probably go and watch this next one, because I did really kind of watch these out of order. I watched the one with the reboot with Khan just because it was in descriptive video, and so now having seen 2009, that one made a little more sense. And so I'll go and rustle up this movie just to watch it, just to say I did it, kind of like how I did with the Star Wars stuff. You got to see it through, and so I'll go see this through probably tomorrow. So anyway, that's all I got. W5BLT.
All right, very good. Let's see here. Did I get everybody? Yes. JWG, Bruce, and Bill. Okay. I'll make my comments, I guess, at this point. I didn't mind Chris Pine's rendition of Kirk. I could see that as, there's a bit of a William Shatner bent to it. There's some of the mannerisms that are missing as well. So I don't know. It didn't bother me. I think Zachary Quinto's Spock is dead on. I think he did a marvelous job. And Carl Urban's McCoy, excellent. I mean, the phraseology, the mannerisms and everything. Even Leonard Nimoy, when he was on the set, said that Carl Urban's representation was so spot on. He just felt like he was working with DeForest Kelley again, or seeing DeForest Kelley work. So I think that was fine. I didn't mind that at all. I thought overall they did a nice job. Some of it is sort of characterization, but you know, what with the new series, The Strange New Worlds, we have a new version of Captain Kirk. This character isn't quite as arrogant, although I think we're going to get some feeling for him going forward, maybe even with the very first episode. But he's going to appear in multiple episodes of Strange New Worlds, and the interpretation is a little toned down from William Shatner's interpretation, whereas I think Chris Pine is more maybe turned up or maybe equal to William Shatner's version from the 60s. Not so subtle, but, you know, maybe playing a younger Kirk too, and compared to an older Kirk that we have in the other shows. I don't know, you can get bogged down in phonetics and time frames and perspectives and things like that. In this film, I didn't mind the characters. I think they did take a back seat more to the reboot of the Khan film. Let's face it, The Wrath of Khan was a superior film and the favorites of fans everywhere. Don't remake the movie. It was already fine. It didn't need any help in a reboot. We'll see. In this particular film, I found it kind of difficult to follow. I actually had to go and read the plot and figure out why some of the things happened, because I could never figure it out when I was watching the film. Mainly because there was so darn much cue, boo, boo, boo going on that I couldn't concentrate on the plot part of it. So the captain, who ended up the rogue captain, his motivations were kind of confusing to me. I guess it's the sympathetic man left behind. That made sense, I guess. I don't know if I would see that as that terrible. But of course, you're stuck on a planet, an alien planet. But you've got eternal life, so what the heck over. And these mining ships, lots of mining ships. You notice that they repurpose mining ships all the time, especially in this rebooted series. Could we have seen more in the characters? Yes, absolutely. Less explosions, and we had a number of these things going on. We had two climaxes here: the rescue of the crew, followed by the rescue of the space station. I don't know. What does that do for us if we've got multiples? And it kind of reminds me of what happened with Star Wars 2. You have these multiple things going on simultaneously in those films. Here we've got them end-to-end, and you're going, how many exciting conclusions can we have? And apparently, you can never have enough. And maybe that was the problem with the film, which robbed characterization. Whereas the 2009 film, as Bill mentioned, it did give ample room for the characters to grow, but it was an origin story as well, so we got to see a little bit of the backstory that we didn't get from the original series and from the movies. That was kind of nice, and it did work, and in fact, in some ways, they even borrowed from some of the scripting that happened later on, particularly from, of all things, the animated series in yesteryear, which really helped the film quite a bit, which I really wanted to talk about tonight, but we couldn't because we had to change the movie. Okay, I'm rambling on. I do want to mention Patricia, PKI5ZUP. She's listening in. She doesn't have a radio yet, but she's been listening over on Spotify, I believe, or one of the streaming services, and maybe watching on video. I don't know. Maybe it is. Let's see. Rex Thompson is there. He says, frequency enemy mind full of Kroll reminds me of Luke Gossam's character in Enemy Mine. Rex, I agree with you. That was something that I thought too, that character, our captain, whose name escapes me, Krell, I guess, reminded me of that character quite a bit, at least visually. I don't know about the rest of it, but yeah, it definitely was like that. And this movie did get nominated for Academy Award for special makeup in it, and deservedly so. There were a number of really exotic aliens that really came off looking first class. All right, we're going for the third round. That would be the one where we talk about music, special effects, all the good stuff that probably this film really did a good job with. So we'll start at the top. Tony, although Tony's pretty much going, over this film. He may do yet another round of, But let's see what he says. NT5TM, Tony, what did you think of the special effects? Go ahead, you can tell us.
Hey? Oh, you kind of asked me to say that, though. I haven't heard Virginia tonight. I apologize if she's here. I am pretty sleepy. She did kind of challenge me last week to think more seriously about the people behind CGI, and I certainly have made an effort to do that. You know, I guess someone does have to do that. It's not just all by remote control. So certainly there were effects, but yeah, I just don't have much to say. Sorry, I'm not giving you a better lead off. I kind of just go first just to get it over with, because someone has to go first. NT5TM.
Oh, that's okay, Tony. Not all of them can be great masterpieces like Jetstream from last week, a film that I'll never get out of my head. Next, Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think of special effects, music, explosions, lots of explosions, or anything else you want to mention about the film? KE5ITX.
Yes, this is KB9SOK. Yes, there are lots of explosions in this film. It may be a record. Whoever was doing the explosions effects was definitely working overtime. So yeah, we had a lot of effects in this one. Well, a lot of CG anyway. And yes, it does take lots and lots of painful hours, and it's probably why these movies are actually more expensive now than they were when they did practical effects. It's because it does take so many people to do these effects, because people get assigned to one tiny type of effect, and that's all they do over and over and over. And it actually sounds kind of like a boring job, to be honest. I've seen some specials where they've showed how they've done it, and it's like very tedious. But yes, there's lots of explosions. We've kind of touched on this before. A lot of times in these films, you know, of course I realize this is in space, but even when they're on the planet, sometimes everything's always dark. I wish they would bring more light to it, but then again, that could show the flaws in the CG. That's why they don't. But yeah, no, definitely the CG was top notch in this, of course. You know, and there's a little bit of, you know, obviously, like I said, it wasn't makeup and all that. One thing I will say, I do love the themes from Star Trek. I like how they kind of had the new spin on it, but then they switched it over to the classic, which I thought was a nice touch. They did that with the first film and this one. You know, it's one thing usually with these movies is that they always use up good music and actual, you know, intros and endings, and through the show, you know, they're actually using, you know, a more traditional, you know, band or orchestra, and it just adds so much to the movie when they do that. So I love when they do that. Even on Picard this last season, of their season, I really enjoyed the music in it, and really always enjoyed that part. So these movies, yeah, it definitely is one of the few times I really enjoyed the music of it. You know, the sound was okay. It was just a lot of explosions. And then I found myself, to be quite honest, running the volume up and down on the television, because it's like you go from a talking scene to just explosion, and it was a bit much. Had to turn it down, then I had to turn it back up again to hear and listen to the people. So yeah, I mean, so that was all good. One odd effect I thought was somewhat interesting, but kind of still out of place, was on the old ship that they used to get out of there. They actually, if you notice, they had monochrome screens, like the old green screens we used to have on the computers. I know they were trying to show that it was old, but even, you know, if we get to the point where we can travel to other planets, my guess is we're going to be past green screens. But it was kind of funny to give you that effect that, yes, this is a very old ship. But I just thought that was amusing when I was watching it, so I knew I had to bring that up. But, yeah, all in all, you know, I think this, unfortunately, you know, wasn't more complex than what we wanted it to be, or it should have been more complex than what it was. But it's the way we go with big budgets. Hopefully the fourth one, they get back into the characterization. I agree, the first film definitely was much deeper, and enjoyed that one more, but is what it is. So yeah, that's all I got for this film. See ya, back to that, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And yeah, I noticed that too. I'm not sure what to think of it when they do things like that. I guess it's supposed to be a visceral reaction, and it says, oh yeah, it's an old ship. Don't think about it too hard. Let's see. Let's try again on John, KF5DCG. John, you out there? You got any comments for us? I know it's getting late, but go ahead if you do from KE5ICX. All right, I'll bet you dimes to donuts John is sitting in his chair, slumped over and asleep. That's my best guess, because I've done that. Next up is Brenda, WB51, special effects, music, something we missed that we should have talked about from KE5ICX. Zooming through it tonight. Okay, Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, your comments, special effects, music, whatever you want from KE5I6.
KI5KWG. Well, I was out of things to say, but Sean provoked me with the discussion. I did not notice the green on black screens to show the age. I think that was the Franklin, was what that ship was called. But while you were talking, I thought of the corded telephone headsets like we had in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and that were used in the reboot of Battlestar Galactica. I always really liked that effect. I thought that was clever. And meanwhile, they also had typewriter-sized papers that had active hyperlinks on it. So I thought, what a neat blend of technology and lack of. So I also realized I actually failed to mention that I enjoyed this film. I love ripping films apart. Maybe that's why I don't have as much to say tonight. But the motorcycle scene and as I mentioned, the Death Star obstacle course scene, those were over the top, failed my suspension of disbelief for each of those. Wish they hadn't have done them. But overall, I enjoyed the movie. Thought it really missed a great plot. That was a side issue that was almost probably on the cutting room floor. But I enjoyed it. That's what I've got for y'all. Enjoyed it tonight. KI5KWG, back to net.
All right, great. Glad to hear it. We had to have some sort of redemption after Jetstream from last week. Bill, W5BLT. Bill, your comments, music, special effects, whatever you want from KE5ICX.
Well, I do have to say I did have to go to the hospital this past week and get an IV, and because I got dehydrated from whatever that stomach thing I had the week before that I was telling you guys about. And so when you compare it to Windstream or Jetstream, this was kind of like getting an IV. And so at least in 2009, I can comment on that one. And like I said, I'll go back this weekend and finish the series. That way I'll be prepared for the fourth movie when it comes out. W5PLT.
All right, Bill. Very good. Let's see here. My comments. I'll go ahead and give you my comments. First off, Michael Chicano did the music. tried to move the foot switch a little further. It got pushed out down under the table, so I had to go grab it and pull it back. Michael Giacchino did the music for this. He did the music for the last two films. He is best known for his Call to Duty when he got the job and a call up from J.J. Abrams to do a couple of television series, one of which you may recall as Lost. He wrote all of the music for Lost, which was had some interesting, really good scores, by the way, for that, even though it had no theme. I think he's a worthy successor to Jerry Goldsmith, who did most of the movies, although not all, and really created kind of the tonal theme for the Star Trek motion picture films, including the main theme that ended up for motion picture and then for The Next Generation. And Giacchino's written the main theme for, Star Trek Prodigy, which you may not have seen the series, but go listen to the main theme for that series. It's on YouTube. You'll find that it is quite good. One of the best, in fact. So I think the music is excellent in this show, in this series, and I agree. I like the idea of going back to the original score, the Alexander Courage main theme with a full orchestra. Really just brings it out really great. As well as if you watch the credits at the end, you'll find some Easter eggs that actually go back to the original series. There's a green hand in there. You'll find it which is referred to in one of the episodes. Special effects, yeah, some of the best I've seen in a Star Trek film. I particularly like the Yorktown and the MC Escher-esque approach that they had with it. I thought that was pretty cool. Probably, like so many things in motion pictures, space is gigantic except on spaceships and space stations because you got to keep all that stuff working. And all I saw was this big, huge town, this big, huge city. Where are the plants? Where are they going to get all of the oxygen? And do they fabricate this all out of nowhere? Where are all the ships that should be in line waiting to bring supplies, that sort of thing? It didn't have any of that I could see, just the Enterprise dock there seemed to be the only thing, and everybody's really excited about seeing the Enterprise pull in, which is nice. But, there's plenty of other ships that would have things like food and water and things you need to survive, oxygen or something. I'm sure they've got replicators that can build things out of nothing because you can do that on Star Trek. That's even still, I don't know. But even that, I like to refer back to the original series. There was the motion pictures when the ship comes in, people looking out onto the observation deck was one, and then the gangway is exactly the same as we saw in the first season of Next Gen when they went to one of the star bases. It's almost a repeat of that scene, which is cool. And then, of course, I like the hot rod out of the Yorktown space station when they're ready to leave for their mission. That was a lot of fun. So overall, I think that the special effects people did a really good job, and it was very entertaining. The music worked really well. Lighting and everything was also quite good. So I would say all good. Now, there was a comment about Picard and music, so we're going to take a right turn here for Season 3. If you go to YouTube, you will find the entire score for Picard Season 3, Star Trek Picard. If you've seen that series, or if you've not, you may want to see it. It's very good. And it's the best of both worlds, which is one of the things that I wanted to mention at my closing. Television series have a tendency to tell the small stories when it comes to Star Trek, which are always fun. And the big motion pictures tell the big arcing stuff with a lot of explosions. A 10-episode series backed by Paramount in this case, the Season 3 actually was a farewell movie to the motion picture, to the Next Generation, not the Next Generation. It's a 10-episode movie. It's 20 hours long, and it's plenty of time to tell some of the smaller stories, have the interaction between the characters, which worked really, really well. The music was superb. and very entertaining. And the story actually works with a few twists along the way. But you've got to dedicate about 20 hours of your life to watch the whole thing to appreciate it. But there's where you're able to take both. Take a continuing series, put it together with motion picture-esque like budget. At least with all of the computers, they're able to make it look like that. And I think they did a really excellent job. So if you're looking for something that gives you that big picture with pertinent story and character development, that's what you had with Picard. So when you're doing a major motion picture with multi-million dollars, you have to do some of this stuff that we've already discussed, which is you got to make it big. You got to make it big, better, huge explosions, and Star Trek gets lost in all of that. That's not what it was designed for. Nor could they ever afford it. So there you have it. I'll go ahead and ask if anyone has any additional comments. Please come to your call now.
NT5TM. Thank you, Tom. I just wanted to say thank you and you're welcome to cruise, and I myself look forward to learning more about autoimmune disease and mental illness. I hope that scientists really pounce on that. It's really fascinating. NT5TM.
Very good. Thanks, Tony. Anyone else have any comments before we close out? All right, hearing none, I got a couple of things to tell you. First off, next week's movie is a favorite of mine. I have not seen this in a couple of decades, but I love the music. It's one of my favorite scores from Jerry Goldsmith. The movie next week, hopefully, if the link still works, it is Pluto, so I'm a little worried. But the proposed movie for next week is 1985's Explorers. Steven Spielberg, I think Joe Dante was director on that. I can't recall off the top of my head, but it's got an excellent score, one of my favorites by Jerry Goldsmith, and a pretty darn good story. So next week's movie will be Explorers from 1985, I hope. And then for Field Day, which will be the following week, we will have a watch party for the 1955. Ready for this? Write this down. It's a classic, Bride of the Monsters from 1955. Is it science fiction? Do we care? No, because it's an Ed Wood film with a liberal use of spaghetti strainers to create monsters' electrical charge apparatus. It'll be great. Trust me on that. And then finally, something personal for me that I think you'll get a kick out of. I sent a spec piece into a website called Red Shirts Always Die. You've probably read a few articles there. I will be a featured writer there with massive sums of tens of a dollar, number of eyes or something. But they like my spec script and said I could be a featured writer over there. So probably one of my first stories will be stupid Star Trek tricks. But be ready. I'll let you know when that happens. It'll be a lot of fun. I would have done it for free, but they're actually going to pay me a paltry sum of money to write stories for them. So look for me there. Okay, we'll see you next week, gang. I had a lot of fun. Enjoy the week, and stay cool. It's going to be warm out there. I got to decide whether I'm going to go out tomorrow morning and go run 10 miles. We'll find out. Yeah, I've been doing that. Haven't talked about that, but yeah, I've been doing a lot of running. See y'all next week. Same bad time, same bad station. This is KE5ICX. I'm now clear. Bye-bye and bye-bye.
Live long and prosper. W5BLT. Clear, and thanks everybody for all the descriptions on the movies. W5BLT.